The crimson sky of Ventry forecast long shadows across the cracked terrain. Wind whistled through abandoned fortifications, carrying the fine dust that seemed to penetrate everything on this desolate world. At the edge of Avarian Empire territory, this outpost had once been strategically important, but now stood as little more than a forgotten marker of the Empire's vast reach. Corporal Aaron adjusted his environmental suit, watching as the rest of the squad established their perimeter around the abandoned station. The barren landscape stretched toward the horizon, broken only by jagged rock formations and the occasional glint of ancient metal structures half buried in the rust-colored soil. "Enjoying the view, Corporal?" Lieutenant Varen's voice cut through Aaron's thoughts. The squad commander approached with practiced strides, his armor bearing the marks of numerous campaigns. "Just wondering why High Command bothered sending us to this wasteland, sir," Aaron replied, straightening his posture. Varen's mandibles clicked together in what passed for an Avarian smile. "Lost contact with the outpost's automated systems. Standard procedure. Check, repair, report back. Nothing exciting." From behind them, Specialist Krell let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a snort. "Unless the humans got them," he said, voice dripping with mockery. The comment drew chuckles from several other squad members. Even Varen seemed amused. "The mighty ghost units?" Varen said. "Perhaps they'll jump out from behind those rocks and shout boo." More laughter. Aaron smiled politely, but remained silent. Unlike his comrades, he'd always found the scattered references to humans in the Imperial archives fascinating. A supposedly extinct species vanished centuries ago, yet still featuring in military cautionary tales. "What do you think, Aaron?" asked Sergeant Mav, noticing his silence. "You're always buried in those old files. Believe in a human boogeyman? Ahin Shulgit. I think dismissing anything without evidence is unwise. The archives mention them as a warlike species that either destroyed themselves or disappeared. Disappeared, Krell repeated theatrically. Like the mythical Black Echo units supposedly hunting at the edges of the galaxy? Stories to frighten newly hatched recruits. Lieutenant Varen's expression shifted to something more serious. "Enough ghost stories. Set up the command post and prepare for outpost inspection at dawn. Double perimeter scans tonight. Standard procedure on abandoned sites." As the squad dispersed to their duties, Aaron couldn't shake an uncomfortable feeling. He'd read more than he'd admitted about the scattered references to human military units. Black Echo, ghost squads, always described with a mixture of scientific detachment and what seemed like fear. Night fell quickly on Ventry 4. The temperature dropped dramatically, and twin moons cast a pale, eerie light across the landscape. Aaron was running a diagnostic on their communications array when Private Sev approached rapidly from his guard position. "Sir," Sev reported to Lieutenant Varen, "something strange with the motion sensors. They're picking up rapid movement signatures about 2 kilometers north, then nothing. It's happened 3 times now." Varen frowned. "Wildlife. Nothing in the database matches the movement pattern," Sev replied. "And the sensors can't get a lock on whatever it is. It's there, then gone." "Equipment malfunction," suggested Krell dismissively. "This outpost has been abandoned for months." "Perhaps," Varen said, but his tone suggested uncertainty. "Increase scan frequency. Alert me if it happens again." As the night deepened, more anomalies appeared. Guards reported feeling watched, though visual scans revealed nothing. Communication with their orbiting shuttle experienced unexplained interference. Equipment that had functioned perfectly during pre-deployment checks began showing error messages. "Probably dust in the systems," Sergeant Mav said, though no one seemed entirely convinced. Aaron watched as his fellow soldiers grew visibly tense, their earlier mockery of ghost stories fading into uneasy silence. He caught himself scanning the darkness beyond their camp, searching for something he couldn't name. At dawn, the squad prepared to enter the outpost. The structure was built into the side of a ridge, partially subterranean for protection against Ventry 4's occasional radiation storms. The main airlock showed no signs of forced entry, but the power systems were completely offline. "Manual override," ordered Varen. Two engineers worked on the door mechanism while the rest of the squad maintained a defensive formation. The airlock finally groaned open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Emergency lighting flickered weakly as they entered, casting strange, shifting shadows on the walls. "Power's been diverted," noted one of the engineers. "Not cut off, redirected." "To where?" asked Varen. "Unknown, sir." They proceeded deeper into the facility, weapons ready. The outpost was standard Imperial design, yet somehow felt wrong. Aaron noticed small details out of place. Equipment moved from its designated positions, strange markings on some walls that didn't match any Avarian script. The central command room was their primary objective. When they finally reached it, the heavy security door stood partially open, another anomaly that put the entire squad on edge. "Breach formation," Varen ordered, and the squad positioned themselves accordingly before pushing into the darkened room. Their helmet lights swept across abandoned workstations and dead monitors. In the center of the room, however, lay something none of them expected: a body. Not a Varian. The creature was Nexilian, a semi-aquatic species known for their trading relationships with the Empire. This one wore what appeared to be a merchant's attire, now torn and soaked with greenish fluid, Nexilian blood. "Still alive," Sergeant Mav reported after a quick scan. But barely. The dying alien's 3 eyes fluttered open as they approached. Its breathing came in ragged, wet sounds. "Who did this to you?" Varen demanded, kneeling beside the creature. The Nexilian's mouth worked silently for a moment before finding its voice, a whisper barely audible even in the silent room. "They? Not myths. Humans. Here." The final word emerged as little more than an exhalation. The alien shuddered once, then went completely still. Silence filled the command room. Aaron felt a chill that had nothing to do with the outpost's failed environmental systems. "Delusional ramblings," Krell said finally, but his usual mockery sounded forced. "Probably hallucinating from blood loss." "Possibly," Varen conceded, studying the Nexilian's wounds. "These cuts, though, they're too precise, too clean. Not like any weapon I recognize." "Sir," called one of the engineers who had moved to a console. "I managed to restore partial power to this terminal. There's fragmented security footage." The squad gathered around as the engineer worked. The screen flickered, showing distorted images. The command room, populated by Nexilian merchants and a few Avarian technicians. Normal operations, then sudden alarm. Figures moving too fast for the camera to capture clearly. Dark shapes flowing like liquid shadow. The footage broke into static, then briefly showed something that made Aaron's breath catch. A humanoid figure in what appeared to be black armor, face obscured behind a red-tinted visor. The image froze, then disappeared as the system crashed. "That proves nothing," insisted Krell, though his voice had lost its edge. "Could be any bipedal species." The engineer who'd retrieved the footage shook his head. "There's a partial data file here too, heavily encrypted, but I captured some text before corrupted. It references something called Operation Black Echo." The name sent another wave of cold through Aaron. He'd seen that designation before, in highly restricted archive sections he probably shouldn't have accessed, always associated with humans. Lieutenant Varen seemed to age before their eyes, his previous certainty crumbling. "We need to report this immediately and await further orders. Secure this room," and a deafening explosion shook the entire facility, cutting off Varen's words. Emergency alarms blared to life, their wailing piercing even through helmet audio filters. "Report," Varen shouted over the squad channel. "Something hit Section C." Sergeant Mav responded. Torva and Zeal were there. No response on their comms. "Form up," Varen ordered. "Defensive positions. Aaron, get that terminal working again. We need to see what." A second explosion, closer this time. The lights failed completely, plunging the command center into darkness broken only by their helmet lamps. Aaron worked frantically at the terminal, trying to restore the security feeds while the rest of the squad created a defensive perimeter. Through the alarms, a new sound emerged. A scream over the comm channel, abruptly silenced. Sev? Sev, report. Varen demanded. No response. Lieutenant, Aaron called, his voice tight with urgency. I've accessed the outpost's secure archives. There's classified information here about human military units. This isn't the time for historical research. Corporal, sir, with respect, this might explain what we're facing. Aaron transferred the data to his personal device as the terminal sputtered and died. These files suggest human special forces weren't just myths. The Black Echo was real, a covert unit that operated without official authorization, even from human governments. Another explosion rocked the facility. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling. We need to move, Varen decided. Head for the shuttle. Full retreat. Aaron, bring that data. They moved through darkened corridors, the only illumination coming from their helmet. Lights and occasional emergency beacons. The facility, silent earlier, now seemed alive with sounds, distant metallic impacts, the hiss of decompressing chambers, and occasionally, disturbingly, sounds like whispers just beyond the range of clarity. They found Private Zeal's body at an intersection. His armor had been breached with surgical precision, a single puncture through vital systems and into his thoracic cavity. No signs of struggle. No warning had come over the comms. Whatever did this knew exactly where to strike, Sergeant Mav observed, voice hollow. They continued, now moving in tighter formation. Their progress was slow, every shadow potentially concealing whatever had killed Zeal. When they reached a larger chamber, what had once been the outpost's mess hall, Krell suddenly froze. Movement, he whispered. 3 o'clock beyond those tables. All weapons turned toward the indicated position. Nothing visible moved in their lights. I saw something, Krell insisted. It was... His words transformed into a gurgling sound. The squad watched in horror as Krell was lifted from behind, a darkened figure materializing seemingly from nowhere. Something flashed, a blade of some kind, and Krell went limp, dropped unceremoniously to the floor as the figure vanished again. Open fire, Varen shouted. The squad's weapons filled the room with deadly energy, but hit nothing except walls and abandoned furniture. Whatever had killed Krell was gone, or had never truly been visible in the first place. Move, Varen ordered. To the airlock. Now. They ran, discipline temporarily overwhelmed by primal fear. 2 more soldiers fell during their retreat, one moment present, the next gone with only a brief cry over the comms. By the time they reached the main corridor leading to the airlock, only Varen, Aaron, Sergeant Mav, and 2 others remained. The airlock door, which they had manually opened hours earlier, was sealed shut. Override it. Varen commanded one of the surviving engineers, who immediately began working on the control panel. Sir, Aaron said, voice low, I've reviewed more of the files. The Black Echo units were enhanced humans, augmented reflexes, optical camouflage, specialized training. They were allegedly disbanded after they became too extreme, too efficient at killing. Some reports suggested they didn't disband but went rogue instead, disappearing into the outer regions. Why would they be here? Mav asked. Why now? The files suggest they were programmed, conditioned, to eliminate any threat to humanity. If they survived somehow, perhaps they've been hunting down species they consider dangerous. Aaron hesitated. Like us. The engineer working on the door suddenly stiffened, then collapsed. Behind him stood a figure that seemed to shift between visibility and shadow. Humanoid, clad in form-fitting black armor, face hidden behind a red-tinted visor. Open fire, Varen shouted again. Their weapons discharged, but the figure moved with impossible speed, dodging with fluid grace that seemed to defy physics. In moments, it was among them. Sergeant Mav fell first, his neck snapped with clinical efficiency. The remaining engineer was next, impaled by something thin and gleaming that extended from the attacker's wrist. Varen managed to land a glancing hit with his sidearm before being thrown against the wall with crushing force. Aaron heard the crack of the lieutenant's exoskeleton breaking on impact. Alone now, Aaron raised his weapon, knowing it was futile. The figure stood before him, studying him with the emotionless gaze of its visor. When it spoke, The voice was distorted, yet unmistakably human. "You came looking for ghosts," it said. "Congratulations on finding us." Aaron tried to keep his voice steady. "What do you want?" "What we've always wanted. Survival." The figure gestured toward the data device Aaron carried. "You've been reading about us. About what we were created to do. Protect humanity," Aaron said. "But humans are gone. You have no one left to protect." The figure's head tilted slightly. "Is that what your empire teaches? That we're extinct?" Something like amusement colored the distorted voice. "How convenient for your kind." From a floor where he lay broken, Lieutenant Varen managed to speak. "If humans still exist, why hide? Why this?" The figure turned toward Varen. "We never hid. We watched. Waited. Your empire has been expanding toward a region of space we've protected for centuries. This outpost was gathering intelligence on human settlements you haven't discovered yet." Aaron felt his world shift. Everything he'd been taught about galactic history suddenly seemed suspect. "You're lying," he said. "The archives are written by the victors or those who wish to become them." The figure interrupted. "Your empire has erased much knowledge of us, turned us into myths. Easier to expand if your soldiers aren't afraid of encountering the Black Echo." More shadows detached from the walls. 3 more figures in identical armor, appearing as if from nowhere. "You will carry a message back to your high command," the first figure said to Aaron. "The territories beyond the Cygnus Void are prohibited. Any further incursion will be met with total response." "Why let me live?" Aaron asked. "Dead messengers deliver no messages. Besides," the figure's head tilted again, "myths are powerful. Now, they'll know we're real." One of the other figures approached, carrying Lieutenant Varen's command key. "Shuttle access granted. We've left one functional for him." The first figure nodded. "Remember, Corporal Aaron, tell them what you saw here. Tell them the Black Echo remains. And tell them we're watching." With that, the figures seemed to shimmer and fade, becoming indistinguishable from the shadows around them. Aaron stood frozen, uncertain if they had truly left or merely become invisible again. Carefully, he moved to Varen's side. The lieutenant was still alive, but barely. "Listen to me," Varen whispered, green blood trickling from his mandibles. "Take the shuttle. Return to command. Tell them everything." "Sir, I can't leave you. That's an order." Varen's eyes were fading. "They've let you live for a reason. The message must be delivered." Aaron nodded reluctantly. "Understand, sir." "Entahin." Varen's voice grew fainter. "I was wrong to mock the stories. Remember that. Myths become myths for a reason. Usually, fear." The lieutenant's eyes closed for the final time. Alone now, Aaron made his way through the outpost, encountering no further resistance. As promised, one shuttle remained functional in the landing bay. Its systems activated at his approach, recognizing his biometrics. As the shuttle lifted off from Venturi 4's surface, Aaron looked down at the outpost. Now, just a dark scar on the planet's rust-colored landscape. His mind raced with everything he'd learned, everything he'd witnessed. The data device contained files that would upend centuries of Imperial history if verified. Humans weren't extinct. The Black Echo wasn't a myth. And now, they had revealed themselves deliberately. Once in orbit, Aaron activated the emergency channel to Imperial Command. His voice shook slightly as he began his report. "This is Corporal Aaron, sole survivor of the Venturi 4 reconnaissance mission. I have urgent information regarding hostile contact with—" He hesitated only briefly. "Human military forces. The Black Echo is real. I repeat, the Black Echo is real and actively operating within Imperial border regions." There was a long pause before a response came through. "Corporal Aaron, this is command. Your transmission contains restricted terminology and prohibited historical references. Maintain position for retrieval. Medical evaluation will be provided upon your return." They didn't believe him. Of course they didn't. Aaron looked down at the data device. They would soon enough. What he didn't see was the small drone that had attached itself to his shuttle's hull. A silent observer ensuring his message would be delivered exactly as intended. Far from Venturi 4, In a classified command center deep within Avarian Imperial territory, an emergency council had convened. The transmission from Corporal Aaron had been isolated, but the damage was already spreading. How did this information leak to a common corporal? Demanded Grand Admiral Vex, his aged mandibles clicking in agitation. The human containment protocols have been absolute for 3 centuries. Intelligence Director Sora remained calm despite the tension. The Black Echo has always been resourceful. They wanted him to find those files. They wanted him to survive. But why now? Asked another council member. Why reveal themselves after all this time? Because we've been pushing boundaries, Sora said simply. The Cygnus expansion project would have taken us directly into what they apparently consider protected space. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber. The question, Sora continued, is whether we acknowledge the truth now that it has begun to spread or continue the containment policy. Grand Admiral Vex's expression hardened. We cannot allow tales of invincible human ghost soldiers to spread through our military ranks. The psychological impact alone may already be unavoidable, interrupted a new voice. All eyes turned to the entrance where Imperial strategist Tarn had arrived, looking grave. The transmission was intercepted, Tarn reported. Not by us. It's been rebroadcast on multiple frequencies across 3 sectors. Every major species in the quadrant has likely heard it by now. Vex collapsed back into his seat. Impossible. Our communications security was circumvented, Tarn said. The Black Echo wanted everyone to hear. This wasn't just a warning to us. It was a revelation to the entire frontier. Across the galaxy, the message was indeed spreading like wildfire. On space stations, frontier colonies, and vessels of a dozen different species, the same recording played. Aaron's voice followed by the unmistakable sounds of something overriding the transmission. A deeper voice, distorted yet clear. The myths are real. The boundaries are set. The Black Echo watches the dark between stars. Remember us, and remember why you feared us. On an uncharted world beyond the Cygnus Void, in a facility hidden beneath an unremarkable mountain range, humans gathered in a monitoring center. They watched as signals from across the galaxy indicated the spreading message. Was this necessary? Asked one, removing her helmet to reveal features that would have been recognized across countless worlds centuries ago, despite being thought extinct. Revealing ourselves this way, the commander, the same figure who had confronted Aaron, nodded slowly. Containment was failing. The Avarians were expanding too aggressively. Better a controlled revelation than discovery on their terms. And the corporal? Will he survive their interrogation? Irrelevant. He served his purpose. The message spreads. Another officer approached with a data tablet. Sir, we're detecting increased military movements across all major powers. The Vaxis Confederation has already begun fortifying their Cygnus border. The Avarian fleet is mobilizing. The commander smiled thinly. Good. Fear will keep them cautious. Cautious empires don't expand. And if they unite against us instead, now that they know we exist, the commander turned to a large display showing a star map, vast regions highlighted in various colors representing different political entities. A small section, unmarked on most official charts, glowed with a soft blue light. Let them try, the commander said. Project Lazarus has given us centuries to prepare. We're no longer just a Black Echo, and humanity is no longer just surviving. On his shuttle, now being escorted by heavily armed Imperial vessels, Corporal Aaron sat alone with his thoughts. He had delivered his message, though not quite in the way he had intended. Whatever happened next would reshape galactic politics for generations. As the shuttle approached the Imperial dreadnought that would take him to debriefing or court-martial, a small light on his console blinked. A private communication channel, bypassing all standard protocols. Against his better judgment, Aaron activated it. A voice spoke, the same distorted human voice from the outpost. You performed well, Corporal. Your place in history is assured now. Aaron felt a chill. You used me. We gave you truth. What your superiors do with it is beyond our control. What happens now? A pause, then, Now the galaxy remembers what it tried to forget. The humans don't disappear. We adapt. We wait. And when necessary, we emerge from shadow. The transmission ended. Ahead, the Dreadnought's docking bay opened to receive his shuttle. Aaron straightened his posture and prepared himself for what was to come. Whatever the Empire decided to do with him, one thing was certain. The myth had become reality again. The Black Echo had returned from legend, and nothing would be the same. In the darkness between stars, invisible to all but the most advanced detection systems, a fleet of sleek vessels adjusted course. Black as the void itself, they moved with purpose toward coordinates few charts would recognize. Their mission completed, the vanguard of humanity's secret forces returned to the shadows, leaving behind only whispers and fear, exactly as intended. The galaxy would remember the humans now, and remembering would ensure they remained cautious, respectful of boundaries, and above all else, afraid of what waited in the dark. Just as the Black Echo had planned all along.